Yes, I think we can begin. Welcome everybody from around Europe, and welcome from here, sunny Brussels, to this our first webinar on the Spotlight on Sustainability series that we will have during this year. A couple of webinars before the summer, and then we'll continue in the autumn. We're kicking this off with a very pertinent topic about science and policy for sustainability, and how is all the knowledge that are produced by researchers in university getting to the people that can act, getting to politicians. What is the science policy interface, as it's called? And we have I dare say, stellar group of people to talk to us about this. But before we do that, a couple of household remarks. Many of you will be used to Zoom. We invite you to ask questions. As soon as they come into your head, we'll collect them afterwards on the chat. And then we will see what the questions are. If you see a question that you really like, give it a thumbs up. Then we can see which ones have more interest among the audience, and that will make it easier for us to choose at the end, because usually we have a lovely and very active audience in these webinars. Last thing I should say, that the webinar is being recorded. We'll put it on YouTube afterwards. Those were the household remarks, nice and easy. I will, before we go to our panelists, just give the word to the EUA board member and former rector of the University of Brescia, Maurizio Tira, who will talk about this spotlight on sustainability activity that we're running. Please, Maurizio.
Thank you, Thomas. Good afternoon, everyone. As Thomas said, and I thank him for organizing this webinar, I am member of the board of the European University Association, which for sure you know. It is the broadest association of universities, grouping 900 universities and 36 rectors conferences. And we decided already years ago to champion one of the board members on the topic of sustainability. So far in the past, we have produced a sort of roadmap for sustainability of a couple of years ago, and we devoted the last conference, general conference, annual conference of Riga in April this year to sustainability. And we want to devote this next month to go deeper into this issue, of course, because as you all know, it is a very relevant one, because 10 years has gone until since the United Nations issued the 17 Sustainable Development Goals, and 5 years are left. And we are also interested what will come next. We just discussed 2 days ago in the board of EUA about what we could do for that, knowing that a lot of universities has already done quite a lot, either on research, teaching, and also social engagement. So we know that it's not maybe easy to find a way where EUA can be helpful for our institutions, not just the members, but for all the system. And that's one of the scope of these webinars. Also, we conducted a survey about sustainability, and we will have the results in the next months, and that will be very helpful for knowing what could be our role. We know that universities have been actively engaged also in trying to transfer to policy the results of researches, which is not always easy. We know that we are not performing as we should get into the 2030 deadline. And that's the reason why we want to hear from you guests and from experts of different fields and countries with different experiences and backgrounds, what could be the next steps, the next challenges, and how we as EUA can place our role in this path. So thank you very much to Ingeborg, Eva, and Angelo for accepting to be with us this afternoon. I don't have anything more yet. Please, all you are following this webinar, if you have also after this webinar any suggestion, question, issue that you want to raise, we at the UA will be more than pleased to receive all your comments and suggestions. Thank you very much, Thomas, for sharing the afternoon.
Thank you very much, Maurizio. So without further ado, and in the interest of time, we have as a first speaker here, Ingeborg Nistrøy. Ingeborg has a long career in this field. She at the moment works for the Research Institute for Sustainability in Potsdam as a project leader and organizing a project on citizens and the Green Deal, so very policy relevant. But sorry, Zoom asked me things. But also has experiences from the European Environment and Sustainable Development Advisory Council. She's worked for the German state of the Rhineland-Palatinate in Brussels, and it's a well-known face when you talk about science and policy and sustainability. So please, Inge, let us hear on your opinions.
Thank you, Thomas, very much. And oh, somebody is sharing the slides. That's also cool. Saves nerves. Yeah, and thank you for the introduction. I wanted to say that indeed I've worked long in the field and with different hats: researcher, science policy interface, NGO, the NGO umbrella called SDG Watch Europe, as a think tank, and I'm now a bit back after this big Horizon project, as you just said, on democratic innovations, to devote more time on the SDGs again. And so this comes super timely, and I'm very happy and enthused about this initiative and the activities of the EUA, and honored that I can, that you invited me here as the first speaker. As to give an opening and an overview, as typical overviews become too long, it is, but be aware that I will flip through many slides, which are kind of more a visual reminder. Oh yeah, this graph I have seen. Oh yeah, I remember. So I will flip through, and of course the slides are then available for you on the platform. I didn't kick out things, and it develops quite nicely as it is right now. Please, next slide. So we go through achievements, barriers, and outlook, starting with achievements or state of the art. Also a reminder about the titles which will carry us through Rio+20 outcome document, The Future We Want, and the Agenda 2030 itself, with transforming our world. Actually, this title already has an essence of the agenda, its achievement, its ambitions, and also its value for the future. And just last year, the Secretary General had the Summit for the Future with the Pact for the Future, which will play a role in the post-2030 perspective, as Maurizio already mentioned it. Next slide. So in an assessment mode, very positive is having gotten to the SDGs as a concept, holistic concept, an agreement politically spoken in a window of opportunity. You all can imagine that this would not happen anymore nowadays. And then also this open working group, OWG, between the Rio conference and the adoption of the Agenda 2030, that was really innovative in the way of countries work together in these working groups and develop this set of SDGs. For the future, for the same reasons, this is not recommended to try to do that again, but we get to that. Again, then a mixed kind of, I would say, the processes that were set up for monitoring and reporting in this so-called high-level political forum that gave dynamic and triggered countries to do things on a lot of things in the areas we will address across the levels and so on. Maybe a bit weakish that this also led to kind of a tick off boxes. So as I said, mixed feelings here, but overall still positive and something to cling to and to still improve. There are many possibilities to improve this. And then, of course, negative or disappointing in a way, yes, and yes, that only 20% of the targets are on track. Around half is moderate or minimal progress, and about 30 are stalled or regressing. So let's go to the concept. Next slide. From the goals and the principles, these are part of the Agenda 2030. Among the principles, leave no one behind is surely most known, but was not so, I would say, unique because it was there before. Really unique is what is underlined, this universality of the SDGs that was their difference to the MDGs. And so it's applicable to all countries. And the other point, the indivisibility led to this integrated approach, systemic approach. Next slide, which was originally then depicted like this with this network of targets. That was the starting point then for all kind of model development. So this looked kind of chaotic, and then some critics nowadays say, yeah, it's just a list of targets or so, which is not the case. Next slide. There is a system really of the goals. At least you can put them in the system. This is the ecological economic system of ultimate means and ends. Next slide. That is then more sophisticated in this famous wedding cake with the natural resource base as basis, as it says, and human well-being, human and planetary well-being as ultimate end, and everything, the production and consumption, the infrastructure and everything in, out, in between. That's the essence of the goal set. Next slide. That then here is a picture bringing this in the donut picture. Next slide. And this is the universality in a picture of one one goal area where all countries would move to in their highest aggregated index with different pathways. So that's the essence of universality. That next slide, it gives the compass for countries to move in that the same area, different pathways. Here it is combined, the same idea with the donut of the ceiling and the floor. Next slide. And here's for the translation then for policy making. The universality means you have to look at your policy areas, domestic, external, and then the domestic policies with external impact. So the famous spillovers, that was all in the package and is in the package, was not there before. Next slide. And then for the implementation further, that was a bit down the road. Eva was here co-author with this, coming up, trying to grasp the implementation with these entry points for transformation. You hear this, we are back at the transforming our world. In the main transforming areas, energy, climate, human well-being, economies, food, urban, and global commons. And then the levers, here you see governance, economy and finance, individual collective action, science and technology, and you will see, next slide, in the barriers, this comes back. So the barriers is the concept. My point here is the concept was ambitious, and it was designed in a way tackling these key areas for transforming, and at the same time it has exactly this has remained difficult. Next slide. You see here man famous in Europe, He said this 2015 when at this summit, when the agenda was adopted, this is our challenges to turn around our economies. And he also said, ultimately, it's all about governance. So 2 of these things will come back. Next slide. He then much later, some 5 years later, was then in the shoes to endorse this European Green Deal, whose future we will see. Next slide. So my take on barriers, next slide. My take on barriers is, no, that before. That was good, the one before. Is economics, governance, and then a system, and then the system more emerging in the last years with our political challenges rooted, I would say, in the digital communication, which hasn't gotten enough attention. And there's also the role of science. So the role of knowledge, communication, and science, and with the political impacts, I see as a third barrier. Next slide. So economics, that could become a wide field. It is a wide field, and starting with the planetary boundaries largely ignored resource use decoupling myth. So this decoupling does not work. And fair distribution has then also diminished. At the same time, the lifestyles and footprints go up. Remember this graph we saw, X, Y axis, the footprints need to go down. But they don't. From the industrial countries, actually, they go a bit down in some cases, but then the middle countries, they go up, and they don't stay stable. So there are all kind of problems. Economic growth measured GDP. There was this Beyond Growth conference some 2 years ago, and on and on and on, and all ends with fair distribution of benefits and burden is less working than ever before. In the global picture here from Mariana Mazzucato, if you are interested in this economics, there's several very good books. Next slide. On the system governance, there is the multi-actor, the participation. I have here thumb up, but see the system communication. So there is an area to work on. Multi-level is a very good, has not improved in itself. So like constitutionally, the links between the levels, some initiatives of better linking this top-down, bottom-up. Bottom-up in general works better, there's more ears for the bottom-up. So that is something now, the subnational levels, we will definitely look at. The barriers were more as recognized the multi-sector. So this tackling this integrated approach, the interlinkages and trade-offs, that remained less tackled because it is a political issue and it was difficult, has remained difficult to overcome short-term and not so successful. And next slide, please. The democratic communication system, fake news, that's the strongest in the link to science, including, which I have thought all these years, my God, where's the communication science in warning about the risks of social media and so on. And when I was researching for the presentation, I found some, interestingly, here on the top, the German academies from 2017, so quite early, really, flag for science, with a recommendation number 1 that media's laws should be applied to regulate platforms and search engines. So I found last night when I put this up a brilliant example that there was really an early warning and not heard. I mean, the rest, you know, and this session here, webinar, will deal with these issues. Next one, Outlook. No, that is a summary of the barriers, sorry, with then all the system of barriers lead to, in different ways and reasons, to rise of populism and make our life indeed more difficult on the left side. And on the right side, some hope areas in the economic system. Well-being economy is kind of growing. OECD is continuing with Better Life Index. There is now an expert group on Beyond GDP at the United Nations, the Beyond Growth Conference I already mentioned. On the governance subnational level, I said a lot of big projects, EU mission cities on climate neutral neighborhoods together. So at the subnational level, there is a lot going on, including a lot on democratic innovations, as does the EU. For example, with the citizens panels on including the one on hatred in society, and on the digital, let's cross fingers that something more will happen here. Now the outlook, I don't know how much I'm over my time. My basic 1 minute to go.
Not
Okay.
even, just
It will
last
work.
point.
Yeah, I will work. So yeah, main message, we shouldn't give up on the SDGs. It is the backbone, not only for global cooperation, as here the colleagues from IISD are stating, but it remains this comprehensive set, which is a system and which can serve as a compass, once a bit more pathetically here as gift to the world formulated, but definitely is a compass to navigate. And next slide. So these are then my takeaway messages for the remaining years: continue efforts, overcome the shocks. So we are still all a bit in shock, and use this framework again as compass. In wherever possible, subnational levels continue to be the champion, foster its scale up and build alliances also with science. Think of the regional level, work on economics, and then think security and sustainability together. This is the bottom of the slide here. I came across a very recent short paper, only 4 pages, by former colleagues from the German Advisory Council on Global Change, who are doing exactly this. And one of their 11 points is then also on research, and several other very good. And politically, in the upper right corner, is also very recent of this year, the election of the current President of the General Assembly, the former German, sorry, there's a lot of German stuff here on this slide, by coincidence, German former foreign minister who is now President of the General Assembly. And she also brings peace together with the quote here: lasting peace will never be reached without sustainable development. And therefore she does put Agenda 2030 on her priority, big one of 2 or 3 priorities. So that's very promising for the year to come, which is very important for the post-2030 perspective also, because that will kick off next year in September. And the main message: safeguard the backbone and don't open the box.
Great, good. Cut it there. So great agenda. We're running into some issues. There's some serious walls ahead. I will go straight to our next speaker, Eva Fuhrman. Eva Fuhrman has again done this for several decades. She's chair of Finland's Sustainable Development Board. She's a member of the working group drafting the UN Sustainable Development Report back in 2019, and is very active in this field. Eva, will you tell us about your experience?
Thank you very much, and thanks for inviting me here, and thanks for the introduction. I would just like to say that actually I found it really interesting that you invited me here, because why I'm in the at the moment in the Prime Minister's office and working in the government is that due to my long 25-year background in science on sustainability and science policy, I'm now really trying to see how it works and how it could work in the government. And then I'm returning back to science actually at the end of this year. So let's move to my first slide after this. So I'm really interested in the idea that we all want to do science policy, but what is actually an impactful and fair sustainable science policy that we can gain, and how with this science policy we can support the sustainable development implementation of the agenda and also take the sustainability forward. I really enjoyed Ingeborg's starting talk where she really put it to this day. World is changing, and that's I think the core thing, that we do have the SDGs behind there, but actually we need to do a lot of kind of fiddling to make it to sit in today's context. So when we are starting here with my slides, so firstly I talk about the scope, and so I do it very differently from what Ingeborg said. I'm looking more from the perspective of how you do things and what is really worthwhile and effective things to work with policy with the sustainability issues. So usually the traditional way is really to comment on single SDGs, and unfortunately there is a lot of this still happening, and well, I think some of that is really worthwhile because it is still there, the core of the 17 SDGs. Also, these kind of policy formulations is something that is taking place, and I've seen recently very nice processes where scientists have been invited and they have co-created with the decision makers certain policies on sustainability by testing and bringing their experiences on what works and what could work. And there was, for example, a process which took like 1.5 years. It was actually on biodiversity policy, but anyway, it was a really nice process, well thought. What I really would like to say a few words is policy coherence, and especially this kind of sharing the ideas, how to move forward with sustainability in, for example, government as a whole. So government, we have several ministries, and we have the administrative level, and we have the policy, the political level. So it's quite challenging. But what we did for 2 years, when we supported the forthcoming government to take into account slightly bigger issues, and we can see that sustainability is not only an ethical issue, it's also a pragmatic way of take society forward. So this kind of developing common sustainability thinking in the government was the starting point. Everyone had their own angles to come in. Somebody wanted to talk about a green economy, some wanted to talk about planetary health and so forth. So we decided that we are talking about sustainability thinking. And this way we were really building on policy coherence, but also common understanding and helping different ministries actually to find ways that when they are doing their policies, how they can actually make rigid science-based networks or databases and use data for that and science. And we had scientists, we were co-creating with scientists in 4 different roundtables. It was really interesting. And at the end, we actually delivered something. We worked also with the state secretaries, deputy state secretaries, the administrative ones, and build like a coherent picture where you have only 4 different issues that you want to take forward. Well, this was useful, and we have continued, and came the government. They didn't do these big pictures, but anyway, the process was really useful for us for the forthcoming, and we have made a lot together after that. Could I have the next slide, please? So, yeah, the next slide, if you can move. Sorry, yeah. Could I have a slide where there is a topic called which times? It's okay. one backwards one. If you can go, one more. Yeah, this is the one. Yeah, so now the next one. Yeah, okay, sorry. So this is about the perspective. I'm at the moment writing the voluntary national report to the high-level political forum and actually sending it out on Monday after 1 year's work. So there you really focus on the past. There's also a way to analyze the present. And then the third element is evaluating the outcomes from the present and then looking into the future. So there are different kind of elements, and really the previous way was really focusing on the assessing the past, but it's more important actually today to see what is happening today and what is moving into the future, how it affects the situation. So the Prime Minister's office in Finland has now made a model that is going to be the way to work into the future, and we have 5 different elements of sustainability instead of the 17 or instead of the 3. So we have the social and health sustainability, economic sustainability, ecological sustainability, but also human cultural sustainability, and then sustainability of security and democracy and the rule of law. And we look at the interlinkages in a systemic way on these issues. And that one, in a way, helps the policymakers, or actually the government, the political government, to make decisions that they see when they do something on one point, it will definitely affect the others. So we are stepping out from this idea that is still used, focusing only on the economic one. Okay, so then if I get the next one, please. Next slide. Yeah, thank you. So this is then about which form we really need for decision making. So we don't touch anymore this one single scientist or single university. Of course, these issues are needed, but it's not really fair, it's not efficient, and it's not strong. So really moving from this idea of bringing different scientists together, either on an ad hoc format, like I said earlier, or then really have science panels. And then the next level is really to build, in a way, panels, meta panel, where you have different panels collaborating with each others. And then there's the model for actually the multi-actor panels, where you have scientists, but also others. In Finland, we have quite a strong model or framework of using with science panels that are independent, but they are based in the ministries. So they have a good interaction there, but they are not, they can write whatever they find important and relevant to feed into the government. They are like watchdogs. And for example, we have the Finnish expert panel for sustainable development. I used to lead that, but now I'm on the other side of the table, and it's functioning. There's 14 scientists there, but it is very close to the government, and it is a strength. And I see that we have changed in our science decision making now, so that we are ready for something of this kind. And if I get the last slide, I would take my last point then, talking about intermediaries. And this means that it's not only the policy or the science that is doing the work or the kind of matchmaking. And this has been, I used to be very suspicious about this, but we have a wonderful model working with the academies of science in Finland. And there is a unit only for this. And they are producing on a fairly, like we have, the Prime Minister's office have actually a agreement with them. So there's we can post them a question, and in 3 weeks, they bring scientists together and make a synthesis paper on this. And I have been talking both with scientists as well as policymakers, and this has been actually a very good model. And the good thing is that it is sort of planned or permanent. It's not only ad hoc, and it has some future. So I will stop here and hope you have some questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting last point about sort of permanent knowledge brokers that work as an interface. Yeah, as I said before, I know you have to go to the button and to the chat to ask questions, but if you have a question, there's no need at all to wait until the end to put it in. Just put it in the chat. On that note, we come to our last speaker with a very interesting perspective, Angelo Ricaboni from Siena, who has, as the other speakers, a long CV and a long experience in the SDGs, co-chair of the European network within of SDSN within the UN. But also importantly, chair of PRIMA, the let's say Mediterranean research framework that has a very strong sustainability angle as well. So, Angelo, please, your perspective, also taking us a little bit outside Europe.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, and thanks EUA for the invitation, and Maurizio Tira for letting me here. So it's a very good opportunity to talk about this issue, because the issue is extremely important, especially after the Draghi report, which pushes everybody to be more competitive, more innovative. So science should have an important role in the building of the Europe of the future. So what I will talk about is science and policy for sustainability in action, and in particular in the Mediterranean area. So I will talk about the experience with PRIMA. PRIMA, as you said, stands for Partnership for Innovation, Research Innovation in the Mediterranean area. And it is a partnership which is co-funded by 20 countries and Euro-Mediterranean countries, basically all the countries of the Rim, plus Germany, Bulgaria, and Luxembourg. And half of the budget is given by these countries and half by the European Commission. We all know that the Mediterranean is under major pressure for climate change. The Mediterranean area is clearly a hotspot for climate change, but also, as we well know, there are migration and humanitarian crises, water scarcity. We have also economic inequality between the two coasts, and there are many geopolitical tensions and security risks. So it's not an easy area. In this area, we have clearly the role of agri-food systems, and the general idea is that food systems are both affecting climate change and this crisis, but also agriculture and agri-food systems are affected by climate change. So the good way to deal with this issue is to work in terms of innovations, in terms of putting together brains, energies, laboratories, researchers. So this is what happened with PRIMA. So with PRIMA, we have this large budget of 700 million euros over 10 years. And every year we fund around 70 million euros in terms of grants to partnerships that are chosen according to the strict rules of Horizon 2020 and now Horizon Europe. So this is not a program by the International Cooperation Directorate, but it is a program within the RTD directory of the Commission, which means that we really care about the quality of research. We care about the rigor in assessing the partnerships, the the proposals made by partnerships. And for this reason, to manage the calls and the selections, we have a secretariat located in Spain, run by a foundation which I belong to, and I am very honored to chair this foundation on behalf of the Italian government. So what is interesting to notice is, so what I will say very briefly are the main results, but also which are the suggestions for the future, but also for this conversation, because I think the conversation, the topic you have chosen is very, very relevant. So I told you that there are 20 countries. The program and the foundation is run according to the principle of equal footing. So we co-manage, co-fund. This is very important. We co-fund. It's not only countries from the north funding the program, but it is co-funded. But also we co-govern this foundation. And this is extremely important. This is very important because equal footing means trust. And without trust, you can't do anything. You cannot say the European rich people going to save the poor people in the North Africa and Middle East. Not at all. Not at all. Trust is built if we co-do things. And this is what we are trying to do. The results are very interesting. We have funded so far 269 projects with more than 400 million euros, about 4 topics: water management, sustainable farming procedures and practices, agri-food value chains as lever for growth, and the nexus between water, energy, food, and ecosystems. And this is very interesting. But to me, the very important topic, the very important figure is that we have 2,591 beneficiaries so far. So what we are doing, really, we are building a true ecosystem of innovation in agri-food systems, which was not existing before. So projects concern, for instance, new ways to technologies for municipal wastewater treatment, desalination, or widening the genetic basis of durum wheat for breeding in a better way, or you have the implementation of transparency through traceability and blockchain. So there are many topics which are of key interest for the future of our basin. So let's go now to the discussion of these topics that I have just mentioned. So in my mind, what we can summarize is a sort of triangle. We have research, we have policymakers, and science diplomacy often is related to the two-direction arrow between research and policymakers. But the novelty in recent years and in the future is the issue of impact. So now you don't have just research and policymakers, but the key issue is that if you want to do science diplomacy, you have 3 major angles: research, policymakers, and impact. And this is a key topic, but also the key problem for the future. Because if we want to contribute to dealing with the issues of the area, it is much more difficult if you want to also to deal with the impact, because it's wonderful to have laboratories working together from the north and the south. This is science diplomacy, because I mean, for the first time, you have researchers from Spain. They work with the Egyptians, but even before October the 7th, even you had cooperation among all the countries in the south, also with Israel. So that is fantastic. But now the new agenda properly asks for more focus on the impact. And this opens up a lot of issues, a lot of also themes to be discussed, because of course, for the impact, it's not only research and innovation which are important. There are institutional issues, regulation, the absence of a single market, the need for tax incentives, the need for more money, because if you do really want to have an impact, you do really need more money, more investments. more capacity building. So given that we are called to put also impact in our agenda, this means that our agenda becomes more complex. It's not easy to say what we need to do. In my opinion, what you need to do, for instance, is to be more and more cooperative among different directorates, the European Commission, because, I mean, there are very important investments, for instance, in terms of international cooperation or in terms of other directorates like the recent one on the Mediterranean, but you need to go beyond this silos perspective. You need to put together a lot of efforts. So I do believe that Europe can be a key actor in the Mediterranean in order to make really the interface between science and policy working. But with the new item of the impact, the real impact, you really need to change your approach. And this is good and very important, not only at the general level of the Mediterranean, but also for each country. For instance, if you talk about Italy, a very important step in this direction has been to create a network among all the major programs funded by the Ministry of University Research on agri-food systems. We built a network among AgroFood, Agritech, Metrofood, the Clan, OnFoods, Prima, MIRI, which are programs funded by the Ministry of University Research, and we created a strong network among them, talking to the Association of Italian Businesses in Agri-Food Systems, Federalimentare. So I think that we have to do in this direction. I think that if we really want to deal with the challenges in front of us, impact is the key word. But it's not just that we say blah, blah, impact, 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 it works. We need to change the approach. We need more investments. We need to overcome the silos approach, and we need to make all these initiatives talk among them more and more. I don't want to spend more time than the one which I was allocated, so I can stop here. I'm available for the deep dive that you need. Thanks a lot, and back to you, Thomas.
Many thanks. Really good points, and back to some other things as well that Ingeborg said in the beginning about the silos and about the challenges that come with the governance of these things. Absolutely. And thanks also to giving us a nice figure, the triangle. Those are always good to think with. Good. We have a first question from the audience, and it's not directed at anybody. It's from Adrian Praschel-Bichler that asked about the role of art and culture in the framework of the SDGs beyond 2030. Eva, I can see you nodding. Would you say something about this?
Okay, I can start because indeed that's extremely important issue, and there's been, of course, a lot of talk about having another SDG on culture and art, but the approach that we are having in Finland is very strongly of doing actually embedding it into everything that is included. So we see, first of all, the Finnish approach in sustainable development is very system-based, holistic, as you maybe noticed also in my talk, that we are talking about systems, areas of transformation, but also looking at these societal systems, how they are interlinking. But we are having as part of that the cultural transformation, and culture is very difficult because you can't really change. Culture is how people think, and you can't say to people how they should think. So it's very much of encouraging early education, like daycares, starting from that, and also lifelong learning on issues. But it's also very much of active citizenship, allowing allowing citizens to, in a way, contribute, and also it comes to both capacity building as well as funding. And thanks to EU, we had a EU project where the cultural actors network actually developed. It was on sustainability and then on climate change, and then they went to sustainability of developing really practices on these. And lastly, I would like to say government that writes always to the parliament reports on certain issues. One of those issues was cultural policy, how to change cultural policy. And there, first time sustainability has been kind of included, that it is a major element, that it's part of it, part of the thing, and that actually culture is not only some performing culture, but it is also, or more so, how we people think, how we value issues, and so forth. So yes, and it is strongly brought into our voluntary national report as well. Sorry for the long answer, but you came very close to my heart for some reason.
Yeah, it's a super important subject, and thanks also to Inge for coming with an example in the chat here. Then we have a second question from Patrizia Lombardi, who asked how youth can be active part in decision making for sustainable development between science and policy. And that is, of course, very big. Inge, is that something you have worked with?
But I can say at least something here for in this citizen deliberation, in this democratic innovation area. There's a lot of attention for youth, and there's currently a project, I think Horizon, called Youth Decides. That would be definitely interesting to have a look at. And they're one of these EU citizen panels, which I had in my slides, starting in September, will be youth only, and it will run long. So normally this is a few months, and this will run almost a year, and on pollinators. That's a really great pick for this combination. Well, the endangered pollinators and that giving that to youth. That's just from this area. So in the practice side and getting engaged in all these processes, there is typically a strong demand for youth. I think when some young people put an antenna out, it will be very easy to fish something. More between on the science side, I think that's maybe something for Maurizio then.
Yeah. I think, yeah, Maurizio, it would be good to have your opinion, but I just, out of curiosity, Angelo, in Prima, you work with societies that are very young. I mean, Southern Mediterranean societies are very young societies. Is this something you think about?
Well, as you say, as everybody knows, that in Southern Mediterranean countries, the average ages are low, and also there are countries like Tunisia, for instance, where there are many doctoral students, many people with a degree. So we have a lot of participants from the south, which is very important. But also the quality is high, because sometimes there is the stereotype that laboratories are not that good in the south. It is not true. There are very important research centers. So as you said, that is a very important resource, is a very important asset. There is, however, a mismatch, because of course there are many young people with a doctorate, but there are not so many opportunities, work opportunities in the south. So there is something that is not easy to deal with. Maybe everybody has a different solution, but we need to also to take into consideration the fact that in these countries, fortunately, I mean, there are many opportunities in terms of studying, in terms of participating to these programs, but we do not always have opportunities for job opportunities. And this can create some tensions and some problems. And I think this is one of the issues that, or one of the feedback that we as Europe should take into consideration, because that is something that could become a really a waste, because I mean, you have very good people and then they do not find themselves satisfied, and then you have also migrations, and you have issues that can be also not good for them, but also for our society. We need to think also how to deal with these issues, certainly.
Great, many thanks. I can see both Maurizio and Eva having their hands up on this one. Maurizio, please.
So yes, I have 3 examples. Well, first of all, I think that in many universities, for example, in my universities, there are initiatives taken directly by the students, the called Network of Students Network for Sustainability. So some activities are led by students, and this is quite relevant, I guess. And in some universities, they also participate actively in the sustainability of spaces, of dealing the buildings, and so on and so forth. And the second example is taken from the Italian experience, where a few years ago there was set up a national PhD school on sustainability, grouping more than 30 universities, and they are still working. There is a program in Italy, and this is good because it's foster collaboration between different universities in the country, focus on sustainability with 6 different curricula. And the last but not least is that I heard that there is a movement of 200 young people that left sailing from Marseille a few months ago, and they are touching different areas in the Mediterranean basin, so to bring messages to the politicians. I think that's quite inspired by the 10 years of the Laudato Si encyclical letter, but it is dealing with the topic of sustainability. And I've heard about that. I think it's a great experience made of youth only. They are sailing and touching different harbors and meeting the people, stressing the importance of go straight forward to the deadline of 2030. So I think there are good experiences, and we have to learn from our students. We have to learn from the youth, because in some cases we don't have the solution. We are too old, at least myself, and the youth, they can have the solutions. They are more fantasy, more curiosity. Thank you.
Many thanks. Yeah, it's something you hear often, that these things are really, or at least have been driven by the students among our members. Eva, you wanted, if I can ask you very shortly on this one, then maybe we can squeeze another question in.
Yeah, I try to be short, and I would like to continue where Marioso brought these ideas where students actually take the role. And there's a specific case which is really interesting, that radicalized youth are gradually, some of them are moving to do more kind of concrete issues where you can really make a change. And they base it on science. And there's, for example, the Operation Arctic, which is really focusing on these radical things against, for example, climate change issues that are not taken up by governments or even by governmental research institutes, where you use fairly radical things to take hold of sustainable development and issues of that kind. And I think that is a really great move that we need in our societies. We are not radical enough thinking about the issues that we are dealing with. Thank you.
Indeed, not radical enough. Okay, I think we have maybe the perfect roundup question. So I'll just ask, if you keep in 3 words, the various panelists, what in your view can the universities do to enhance the connection between science and policies? Are there any best practice examples that could be shared? But let's just try to keep it. What can be done in 3 words? Angelo, do you want to start with that?
In my opinion, we need to show our impact. I mean, the key word is impact. So if we are able to show impacts, then policymakers will listen to us. Otherwise, it's very difficult.
Great, good point. Inge.
Yeah, give me more room, focus, give more room to focus on societal needs and questions, put more attention to what are formulating the questions. So this demand-driven research, like in the missions. So I would support this, would hope that this missions approach goes on.
Great. And Eva.
Yes, I would suggest more experimental ways of actually imagining the future, which are science-based. There is no science for future, but there are tools that can be used. And this is something that the youth can really, really offer, but also learn themselves. And this, do it kind of go creatively with policymakers. I think that is really crucial. We shouldn't look backwards, but forward as much as possible.
Looking forward, indeed. Maurizio, do you want to have the last word here on what universities should do?
Thank you very much, Thomas. Really thank you to Ingeborg, Eva, and Angelo for the insights, thoughts, and I really think that we have to go on as Ingeborg was asking in their slides, and because the next few years will be very crucial to demonstrate that we can continue on this path, and very important for the next steps to come. The universities are crucial. In a survey made a couple of years ago to different institutions in society, the majority of respondents, when asked who are the key institution to put forward sustainability, 68% of respondents said, first of all, universities. We have to take this as a social responsibility, and we have to take it very seriously. And may I close with a metaphor that the last Nobel Prize of Italy in physics, Giorgio Parisi, was using about the relation between science and policy. He says, in a car, scientists are the lights, but at the steering wheel, there are politicians. So our task is to be the light, to enlighten the road for the politician driving the car. So that would be our role, and all the best. And really thanks for your participation, and to all the participants.
Many thanks, Maurizio, and many thanks for the metaphor as well. Great. So let's just end this webinar, I think, on a note of hope, as we heard in the first presentation, saying, yeah, we know we're not maybe completely on track or far from it on the SDGs, but we've learned methods, we've learned ways forward. There are frameworks out there that takes us forward, and universities do have a very big role to play in this. So many thanks also from me to the panelists, to Maurizio, to our audience. We continue our series already on next Tuesday. There is a much more technical, but that doesn't mean less interesting webinar about sustainability reporting, not as a sort of compliance burden on universities, but how that can really be an opportunity for universities to work on sustainable development. You will see in the participants hub here on the webinar, there are several texts you can read. There's a link to our webpage with our various activities. I'd invite you to explore that. There will be many other opportunities. The easiest way to follow what EUA is offering is simply to subscribing to the EUA newsletter. And there you will get the opportunity to register, to sign up, to read and follow this topic, which we will take forward for the next good many months, spotlight on sustainability. So in those words, wish you all a good afternoon, and hope to see you soon at another activity from EUA.
Good afternoon.